Have you ever walked into a house and felt it watching you? The air a little too warm, the silence a little too alive? Well, this home was built in the 1950s. An old gravity furnace lies beneath the floor, and a tragedy that never really cooled. For Jacob, what happened here still lingers in the air. Welcome, seekers of the paranormal. And listen in as we dive into the eerie and unexplained. So turn off the lights as we join Dustin and Luke in exploring the unknown.
Everywhere I live, somebody died. The woman that lived there before, the original owner, she raised a family. She lived up into her late 80s. She was wheelchair bound. This house was built in 1950, and it had a gravity furnace. You know what a gravity furnace is? You just have a big hole in your floor with an iron grate, and heat rises up through it. But that iron grate gets hot as shit. And she was wheelchair bound. And you probably know where this is going. Uh, you have to go over that iron grate to get to the bathroom. Her wheelchair got caught, and she fell in that grate in January. And in Ohio, it gets cold. She roasted on that grate for about 24 hours.
Oh my God.
And it was bad enough that they had to replace the grate before they could show the house.
Oh wow.
So she cooked on it pretty bad, and I did without a doubt that house was haunted. You know, I had a few friends who, had went through a divorce or something. Actually, went through a divorce and needed a place to stay for a few weeks, and they experienced a lot of the same things I did. Everybody who had ever spent any real time in that place will testify that it's definitely haunted. I have videos. I have one actually on my TikTok of the back door, the door handle turning by itself.
I think you sent
And
that to us.
yeah, yeah. You can kind of hear something scratch back door, and I open it. There's nothing there. My dog hanging out with me here. A few years back, she was mauled by another dog, and she had to have a few surgeries, and she had the cone of shame and everything, and she was walking around the back. I had to go everywhere with her because she gets stuck with that cone on her head. Poor thing. And there's this chair I had in the backyard. I had some furniture out there, and again, it's just dead of winter. And she walks up to this chair and just sits in front of it and stares at this chair as if there's somebody in the chair. And she stays there for about 20 minutes, and I video it because it's so freaky. I mean, it was weird. That was really. She just was fixated on this chair. I mean, she wasn't growling, wasn't barking. It was almost like she was somehow communicating with something that was in this chair, but it wasn't like it wasn't like a bad thing.
Yeah.
But she was just fixated on it, and I think finally I ended up pulling her away. But she sat there for a good 20 minutes, and I do have a video of that somewhere. I'll need to find. Yeah, it was weird, but lots of things happened in that house. One time, this one really got me. I have a recording studio in the house, and I had another. I had kind of a lab where about my college used to grow mushrooms, and I was working in a lab, and I hear the record player come on, and the record player came on by itself. Now I could explain away a TV coming on. I could explain away, but a record player, there's multiple steps. You have to lift the arm. You have to put the arm onto the vinyl. It's not like something like an electric surge is going to cause it to come on. That's It's more complicated than that. But the record player, I don't record that I either. Um, but that was one where I actually stood frozen for about, okay, first I thought it was the Alexa. I'm like, oh, I must have left the Alexa on. Well, I did. The Alexa was playing too. The Alexa was on. Also, the record player was on, and I probably stood there for 5 minutes, like, this can't be real. But if it was the old lady, she had good taste because it was a good Willie Nelson record. Yeah, I do. I absolutely her, and I think she had a good sense of humor. And it was never really a scary thing, other than it was just real. She might have messed with me at times. Um, there's a knee wall up in the loft. My recording studio is up in the loft, and there's a knee wall. So these little doors to access the knee wall that are only maybe 2 feet high. These doors, one in particular, they would open all by themselves, and it wasn't due to a draft or anything. I had figured that out, and I wasn't the only one that had seen it either, because one of my friends stayed up in that loft, and he'd experienced it too. And it's just one in particular, this little, and one time I was standing right next to it, like a foot away, and the thing just opened all the way up. And man, that was freaky. Another time I was in my lab, and my friend who was staying with me worked. He was a chef, so he'd get home late, and never at the same time. Um, whenever they closed and got done cleaning everything. And I heard him come home. I heard the back door open. I heard his, he's wearing big boots. He was working in the kitchen. I hear him go up the stairs. And I said, oh, Will's back. And I even hear him come back down and go outside to smoke a cigarette. And then 20, 30 minutes passes, and I hear Will come home again. Back door opens. Go upstairs. Go back down, smoke a cigarette, come back in, go. I'm like, that's weird. If I'm still doing my thing, like 20 minutes later, Will comes home from work again. And his back door opens, back down. And at this point, I get up and I'm looking. And he's not there. There's nobody there. It's just me. But I'd be the plain as day. I heard the door open. I heard someone. You know what things sound like in your house, especially when you live alone. You know every sound. I heard somebody walk up the stairs, but there was nobody there. And then finally, he did come home, and I told him about what happened. He's like, that's insane. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you came home like 4 times.
That's crazy.
That was a real. Yeah, that was a real way. There were, when I first moved into that place, I had a recurring dream, and it was very, very vivid. I would hear the back door open, and I would hear the back door open into the kitchen. I would hear somebody come into the kitchen. I hear him walk through the kitchen, and then into the hallway, and then my bedroom was down at the end of the hallway, and I'd hear him walk towards my bedroom, and I always had my door shut, so I hear him walk all the way up to the door, and then stop. And I had 2 dogs, 2 pit bull rescues. And this dream happened every night. And the only way I was able to determine that it was in fact a dream and not something that was actually happening was I realized, well, my dogs would be barking. That was really happening. But for about a week, it really got me. That was the first thing that happened. There were just all kinds of. Oh, I think that old lady saved my ass one time because I was using my pressure cooker, and I forgot that it was running. So I forgot to turn. I don't know how experienced you are with pressure cookers, but you never want to run one dry.
Yeah.
Because they can explode, or you can ruin the pressure cooker. And the one I was using was like a nice $600 pressure cooker. And I completely had forgotten that I had it running. I was upstairs recording or something. And then I remember, like, oh shit! And I run downstairs. I'm like, there's no way it's gonna be dry. It's like I got it. And I come down, and it had been turned off.
Oh wow.
It had been
That's
turned
wild.
off. Yeah.
Back to the story about you thinking a friend came home or your roommate. Dustin actually had that experience a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
I've had it happen a couple of times where I had heard my wife and kids come home, and then I go out there and there's nobody here. And we've actually talked about it before. There's some kind of spirit or entity or something that mimics like your routine before you come home.
Yeah.
That's, I thought of it being like a mimic type thing. That's interesting.
Sometimes the dead don't stay where we think they are. And sometimes they never left at all. If you've had a strange encounter or a story that defies explanation, we want to hear it. Email us at exploringtheunknownpod@outlook.com or call and leave your story at 412-533-3483. Be sure to record in a quiet place so that we don't miss any details. And don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen. And join us on YouTube and Facebook for more investigations and live hunts. Until next time, keep your lights low and your mind open.